All right. Jay Pendleton, welcome to Scottsdale, Arizona. It is so awesome to have you here and be sitting right here side by side. What, like 8 months after we were last together?
Yeah, and coming up on a year since we first met in person, also in Scottsdale.
Oh my gosh, it's like full circle. Yeah, it's almost our work anniversary. So I I have to admit this came from Claire Davis, right?
Yes.
And where this conversation came from, the idea of Jay and I sitting down and talking through what does it mean to win in medtech,
Right.
and how do you build a brand? How do you build trust? How do you establish yourself to be successful? Because the thing that many of our friends on the internet might not know is before we did what we're doing now, we also were really incredibly successful sales executives, sales leaders, program managers, all of the things. And it's that background that not only prepared us for what we're doing now, informed the moves and decisions that we make, but is what allows us to give back to this space in a way that is so nuanced and elevated as compared to a lot of what you see out there.
Yeah, I mean, if you think about, first off, thanks for having me. This is fun.
Yeah.
If I'm in town, I'm gonna try to carve out some cat time. It's always beneficial. And I love what you're doing in the market today. Well, one of the things I think when people see MedTech Voice or whatever, the stuff on LinkedIn or on media, like they forget, like this all started as a spine rep in the operating room, like living and breathing it, schlepping trays for days and getting ready for cases and reviewing MRIs and just doing all those things that was necessary to do the job. Like, and I took a lot of pride in that. Like, I think we talked about this on the way, but before we started recording, like you had to do it that way. There's no shortcuts to success. And, some of the things we're going to talk about is like just our experience. We get a lot of questions about how do you win? How do you succeed? How do you get to President's Club? I mean, like it's very rare. Like I would say the people that are giving the advice out there that I've seen have actually succeeded at the highest level, reps of the year, chairman's club, all that kind of stuff. And it's not why you do it. Like, make no mistake, that was never a goal. It's a byproduct of being valuable and doing all the little things. And so, like I'm excited to share whatever I can, part of my story and the journey to help others. So I think there's nothing out there.
There isn't. There's so much noise around, and we talked about this, yesterday. And I think we talk about it every time we talk, this concept of breaking in. Like, I think you said this, like, we're not robbing a bank.
It's not a robbery.
There's this idea that it's the most important act is breaking in.
No.
I mean, that's just like your entry ticket.
If that's your goal.
Because once you're in, you've got to find a way to win. And what you just said of like, it is those little things. I talk about it a lot and this is a Brene Brown analogy, but she talks about trust as marbles in a jar.
Yeah.
You have to make those deposits before you can ever withdraw from that jar, before you can ever say, when are you going to use my product? When are you going to be on stage speaking about how awesome it is to work with me? Or, whatever that ask is and the push that you're making of your customer, you have to have deposited first. And that gets missed. And to your point, it's the deposits are made in the moments that people don't see, in the hustle and the hours that, like, it is a lifestyle. I tell that every person that comes to me and says, like, what, I want to get into medical device. Like, let me tell you all the reasons why you shouldn't.
You shouldn't. I try to talk people out of it, pressure tested on the front end. Like, are you sure? Is this something that you were really willing to commit 10, 15 years? I mean, we both have 15 years of experience before we branched out and broke out of medical device.
Everyone wants to break in. We broke out. But it's like we broke out, but we stayed.
We stayed because there's so much relevance and nuance and specialty in the lessons that we learned, plus the network, plus the ability to just be neutral. And I think there's extreme value, right, to being in that place where you can help both doctors and industry. And that's where we both are in different ways, but also there's some synergies as well. To me, it comes down to building trust in your marketplace.
Yeah.
And that's not a short-term thing. That's not a break in and just like, how do I build trust day one? It doesn't happen that way. Like you said, deposits, over time. And like a lot of times, like you're not going to see the results of that for many, many years.
Right.
But it compounds pretty quickly. And you got to fall in love with the process. I mean, that's a cliche, but it's so true. And I remember like vividly being in decontamination or sterile processing at 2 a.m., cleaning off a tap, getting it processed and ready to go for the next morning, and having a smile on my face because I know that I'm outworking my competition. I know that I'm creating a moat and a wall around the surgeons and the practices that I supported, and just falling in love with that process. And it wasn't overnight. Like it took many, many years. It took me 10 years of sales, both B2B and associate, and a couple of years as a rep to make really good money. Like it doesn't happen overnight.
You mean you can't in 90 days promise me $200,000, Jay?
No.
No shade. I want to.
No, I'll throw a little shade because anyone saying that, like, consider the source. Yeah. What did they do? Like, be honest. Like anyone that's coaching or teaching or doing master classes, like what have they done in their career? Like always consider the source. I speak about things with passion and enthusiasm because I've lived it. I literally did it. So have you.
Yeah.
And so I feel like it's not, I don't want to, I think it's exciting that people are doing things and building things on their own. Like entrepreneurialism.
Oh, absolutely.
It's in my blood.
Yeah.
As is it's in yours. But be authentic.
Yeah.
Like, have integrity and character.
Integrity is such an important thing. And that's really, I think it's really an offshoot of trust. And you can't build trust without integrity. And, it starts as the, like, do what you're going to say, or do what you're going to say, do what you said you would do. There we go. How are we going to say it?
That's right.
When you say it and then you do it, you build trust.
Yes.
But the integrity piece is like, what is the underlying reasoning and rationale? And what is the conviction that you show up with? Do you have the credibility to back it up?
Credibility is interesting too, because again, that's another thing that's built slowly over time.
Yeah. I always used to say when I was interviewing, because I think it's interesting, and I would love for you to share your break-in, sure. Right? Or robbery stories, because I think we should both share.
Yeah, let's do that.
But, I get a lot of questions of like, oh, well, how did you leave your job? Or what makes you qualified to be a coach? Like,
right.
Well, I've been a sales leader for a decade.
Yeah.
Even before that, I was a sales trainer and all of these things. So I've been coaching people on how to succeed in medical device.
Yeah. That's your job.
Decades. Yeah. Now I just do it under my own shingle.
Right.
But really, when I would interview, I would tell candidates, there's 3 things that you have to build to be successful in this industry. It's acumen, credibility, and trust. ACT. You build those 3 things.
Yeah.
And your career will do things that you never thought were possible.
Yeah, it's important. I mean, acumen up front, like you got to know,
your shit.
The anatomy, the biomechanics, like you got to know your trays, your solutions, like cold.
Yeah.
That is the reason you're in the room. Like let's be honest. It's not to crack jokes and it's not to like keep everybody. It's you're a representative of this company. You're a liaison between the company, the doctor, the patient, the hospital. You're that subject matter expert in the room at that moment. That's why it's difficult to get in, because that's high risk. And if you want to go into the break-in stories, I'd be happy to share. I'd love to hear yours. I'll share mine as well.
Yeah, so, let's do it. Dive in.
I've told this story a couple times before. I'll try to keep it to a minute.
I mean, give us the full version. We got time.
That's true. So I didn't really know what I wanted to do when I graduated college. Matter of fact, I graduated college without a job. The .com bubble had burst.
Yeah.
And
what year did you graduate?
2002.
Okay.
So I moved back in with my parents, right? Tail tucked, and got a job selling soccer shoes. And every single cleat that I sold to some privileged kid in Highland Park, suburb of Dallas, I was just reminded that I failed and didn't have anything to show for 4 years as a business major. And a few months later, I got a job at IBM in sales, and I was off and running. But I remember that vividly for people that don't know what they want to do or they're confused. Like, it's okay. Like, sometimes like that's maybe God trying to tell you something, and he absolutely was. And so anyway, broke in B2B sales, 4 years in a cubicle, dialing for dollars. Loved relationship sales, loved creating those relationships with the client. Did not love being boxed in literally into a cubicle.
Yeah.
And was about to leave and kind of like go get a face-to-face, field sales role for IBM, and I have to move. I was in Dallas at the time to do that, and my best friend, best man in our wedding, was like, "Why don't we just push pause for a second instead of moving? Like, you ever thought about traveling, taking a trip, taking a gap year?" Which a lot of other cultures do, but a lot of Americans don't.
The U.S. doesn't.
Only 30% of Americans even own a passport, which is wild. And there's many people that never leave the town that they're born in. They're born there and they die there. And this actually happened, if I can back up, 2 years before this moment, I was in Tokyo, Japan, and Beijing, China, with a former colleague at IBM who was launching a business there, left IBM to kind of be an entrepreneur. He was Chinese, he is Chinese but raised in Texas. So he spoke both languages, and I was over there he was doing like supplements and whey protein, and this was '04. They were gearing up for the '08 Olympics, and I was like his guy that had used his products, right?
Cool.
Bodybuilding.
I mean, what an amazing experience.
It was insane.
How cool.
Yao Ming's agent, people smoking in the break room. I have no idea what's going on, but everybody's laughing, and like I was just there. But the point of that story was I was exposed to a different culture, so different that I caught the travel bug.
Yeah.
And I had to like quench that thirst and learn more. So then later, quit my job, sold my car, sold guitar amps, things that I wasn't going to need, and just took a break. Traveled for the better part of 2006. And it was an incredible experience. I know you've traveled as well. You gain a lot of perspective.
You really do.
On yourself, on the world, on just everything. And then came back a much different person. Like that trip completely shaped and changed my life for the better. Met a girl, and she's now my wife for coming up on 17 years. And like she knew I was trying to figure out what I was I was going to do. Her cousin worked for Synthes in the trauma space. He became my mentor. Again, when people pay thousands of dollars to break in, I had a mentor and vision, and I did a ton of research. Yeah. And then networked the heck out of, like, this was before LinkedIn was even a thing. Like, it didn't really exist. It did, but it wasn't not the network that it is today.
Right.
And so that, like, through Brandon Roberts and his mentorship, I learned the game. I understood. This was a world I didn't even know existed before I met my wife's cousin.
Yeah, it wasn't like it is now, because to your point, LinkedIn didn't exist. And so you didn't know medical device was even
a thing.
Career. Yeah.
Yeah, I had my ACL repaired in like 99. I remember there was some like fit dude, probably Arthrex rep in the corner. Like I was like,
athlete.
Yeah, who is this guy? But that's about it. Like literally like so learned about it, fell in love with the process of like, okay, who are the players? Who are the companies? Like would immerse myself in that, like the annual reports or like any information that I could get at the time, and just became familiar with this just through the chat boards and the internet, and at the time, like whatever I could find. And I wanted to be at the point where if and when I got in front of a hiring manager, I actually had a bit of understanding that would go along with my 4 years of successful B2B sales.
Right. Because
I think that combined with the entrepreneurial nature of the travel, the trip, and all those things, that definitely is what led me to be hired. But it still took a while, like at least 6 months from when I started in networking and interviewing before I ever got like really an interview and a shot. And was hired by Medtronic in Spine in 2008. Really, I sat down with a hiring manager. He was just meeting me out of a favor to a doc. And I guess I should back up for a second. There was a spine surgeon, or is a spine surgeon, Andrew Dossett in Dallas, and his son and I were good friends in high school. I knew that was a card that I could potentially play, but I was not going to call Dr. Dossett until I knew enough and knew, to your point earlier, that I was committed to doing this. I was already all in, and I wanted to get into spine.
Yeah.
And so I made the call, and I didn't ask for a job or anything. I said, hey, is there anyone that I can talk to learn a little bit more that you would recommend? And the gentleman that he called ended up hiring me, but he had no intention of hiring me. He sat down and he told me, I'm not here to give you a job. We don't have any openings, but I hear you're a good kid. And I just wanted to, so that was where it started. In that breakfast meeting, 6 a.m., Frisco, Texas, he's got gravy on his eggs. And I'm like, what is happening? He's in scrubs.
Yeah.
Big football player.
Yeah.
And I'm like, that was my opportunity.
Yeah.
All the research and all the preparation at that moment, not to close him, but just to let him know that I'm high potential.
Yeah.
I could hit the ground running if given a chance. And that's what happened. I was hired as an associate sales rep.
And how did you frame that? To your point of like demonstrating that I'm high potential, demonstrating that I have, like the start of the acumen, because you can never have all the acumen before you, get into the role. How did you position that?
So I had done, a lot of research about like what to do if you're at an interview, right? And there's a lot of stuff out there now, but back then it was kind of hit or miss. I created a brag book.
Yeah.
My girlfriend at the time, she's a graphic designer, kind of went through and like, how do I explain my life to this point? Like all the things that I did at IBM. How do I talk about taking a year off to travel, which is like a gap in the resume, but lean into that as a strength, right? And that's exactly what I did. Like I used it as this was an opportunity to see the world and doing all these things. We had some really amazing stories from the trip, obviously, and use that as a way to let James know who I was.
Yeah.
And really, I told my story.
Yeah.
Like I really did.
Isn't it funny how it always comes full circle? It
comes full circle. Yeah. Well, I mean, and so, I look back at that, like there was no medical sales college. There was none of these like master classes.
You were on your own.
There was nothing. But I'm almost glad there wasn't.
Yeah.
Because I learned a lot in that process. Like I think most people would have moved on and, done something else. But it just made me want it more, like just researching it, learning about it, researching and learning about like taking care of patients and just like, I was introduced to a few reps and I would listen and just ask them about their life and their day. And I really started thinking, okay, this is a great opportunity for me. And I think it just matched something. And then first case I shadowed, which before credentialing you could do. Yeah. I shadowed a few cases and that was honestly really it. The OR felt like home. It still does. I was just in the OR this week in Boulder with a surgeon's story. And like, I love being back to where I truly found, I think ultimately success for the first time professionally on a grand scale and kind of found that alignment.
Yeah. Do you remember what that first case was?
Yeah, I believe this was an ACDF, just an anterior cervical discectomy infusion. And the microscope has like the ability to kind of see what the surgeon's doing on the display, and just kind of watching that, and really just what I learned. I shadowed under a former nurse. He was a nurse in the Army, scrub, and then he became a rep. He was my mentor, Scott Noonkester, and so coming from like that, I really loved the OR workflow interaction. Like everyone's there doing their own thing, kind of in harmony. It's almost like a symphony. And I just really observed that, just like a fly on the wall. Like obviously, just watching everyone just own what they do, and just became like amazed at the impact a medical device rep has on that patient that they'll never meet.
It is unreal. It is absolutely unreal to like, and I think that's the thing that it's a thing that I was always really passionate about when I was a rep of, training other reps, because, my background's neuromodulation. And so we meet our patients.
You do meet your patients.
Oh, do we meet our patients? Yeah. We, they have I still get text messages from patients.
That's amazing.
From 15 years ago. And I point them in the right direction of where they need to go. That's awesome. But, I always was amazed at just how much influence and impact and how much responsibility there is, right? And that's where, for me as a hiring manager, that Acumen piece is the first part of the acronym. Because if you don't have the knowledge and the wherewithal you mentioned on your products, your trays, like your conditions,
Right.
your surgeons and their everything. But that even expands of like the dynamic of the facilities they work in,
Exactly.
the reimbursement landscape, what's the regulatory situation. If you don't understand the entirety, what other treatments are in their algorithm, how do they decide within that algorithm? What new and emerging research is coming? That acumen is what's so critical. And, it's so interesting because often you hear these folks like, oh, I want to break in. I just want to make a bunch of money. It's like, you won't last long if you're just here for the dollars.
That's right. And I think that part of that is what, rubs a lot of people the wrong way around like this promise that's being sold for like, yeah, you'll break in, you'll make several $100,000. Like, yeah, that's possible. Yeah. Both of us did for a long time. Yeah. But that's not why, and that's not the focus. It's a byproduct of doing things the right way for the patient, for the surgeon, for the doctor. Amen. Every day. Yeah. And if you do that, then yes, it can be lucrative, extremely lucrative. But I feel like that's never there's a disconnect between doctors are measured based on outcomes and patient satisfaction and like just them like being healed and restored. Right. And then look at industry and we're measured by quota and growth. And that's not really aligned. And so if you focus on that, like you're not going to put what matters to them.
Yeah. It's a really bad cologne. They can smell it. Wow. They don't want to be associated with it and it won't lead to a long career. I mean, as your point of like, none of us, you can't break in just expecting and deciding that like that 6 figures, I'm here for the money. Yeah. And I'm only going to do it for the money. Yeah. I mean, so I broke in 2010.
Yes. I want to hear your story.
Speaking of the money, I'll talk about how I got there, but the spoiler alert is my offer was $45,000.
Oh yeah. Mine was less.
And I was so damn excited. Yeah. And I want to encourage everyone listening to negotiate because I got an additional $5,000. I thought I was rich.
It's awesome.
$50,000.
Yeah.
Right. So, but my background, and I remember, as I'm sure you do, I remember like so crystal clear where I was standing when I got the call and the offer, right? I was standing in the athletic training room because my background, so different than yours. I didn't come from the B2B world. I didn't have traditional sales experience, but I had the clinical experience. Yeah. And so I did undergrad and graduate school at University of Iowa. My background was sports medicine. Oh, yes. So the first surgical case I was in was actually with Dr. Albright at University of Iowa, who's a very renowned orthopedic surgeon, for an ACL repair for one of my athletes. We got to go in, and it was the coolest experience. Yeah. And he's in there, and he's now since retired, and very prolific surgeon. He looks at the nurse and is like, bring her a stool. And I was like, me? He's like, yeah. And he's like, no, I mean a step actually. And so he's like conducting at the nurse, and I'm just standing there like trying to get as far back as I can. Yeah. I'm like, I know not to touch anything blue. Don't touch anything blue. That's all I know. And he has her put the step right behind him and instructs me to stand on the step and watch. And it was a fully open procedure. Oh, wow. So I got to watch repair the ACL.
That's amazing.
And in that moment, I went to Iowa because I wanted to go to medical school there. Went through freshman year bio and thought maybe I'm going to do something different in medical school. Yeah. Found athletic training. I'm a past dancer, and so wanted to work with dancers, wanted to still be in that like sports medicine arena, and just, fell in love with athletic training. It's more than taping ankles. It's, I got to be a part of the care algorithm. Yes. And so when it got to the time of finishing my master's, what was I going to go do? And I looked at it and thought, well, if I'm an athletic trainer, I'm working the hours of my team plus more, right? You're there before they start practice, after they practice, in the off days, you're still coming in for treatments. Like you're traveling with them. Like it is a lifestyle. And I had a college roommate who had went and actually worked at DePuy. Oh, wow. She broke in.
I know. It's
so hard to break the habit of it. Yeah. But she got into medical device through a University of Iowa alum who connected her with some people. And so I started the conversation, really probably my junior year of college. And I had an interview with a distributor in Iowa and sat down with them, like great conversation. They offered me an internship, but it was unpaid.
Mm-hmm.
And I unfortunately wasn't at a stage from a, economic standpoint that I could do an unpaid internship then.
What's wild about that, just to interject, is I know several folks, definitely one that he did an unpaid. I also started with a distributorship of Electronic, and he did an unpaid sales role, like associate role. Learned for I think 1 or 2 years, till he realized, or they realized, how good he was, and he's still in the industry, still doing great. But sometimes there just wasn't opening,
and you have to be willing to get gritty, and I couldn't in that moment, which broke my heart. And so I looked at it and thought, okay, well, maybe this opportunity is done. And then I went to grad school. Okay. And finished grad school and thought, well, I wasn't even done with grad school. I was like, where am I going to go? Like I was saying, I could make $32,000, or I could talk to my girlfriend who did get a job in med device successfully, and figure out, where do I go next?
Yes.
So, as it happens, this job and industry is a series of spider webs and connections.
Yes.
One introduction leads to another introduction, leads to the person that opens the door, just the tiniest bit of crack. So then you can move in there.
What's interesting? It made me think of, when you said the spider web of connections, I would say, Kat, that you're a really good networker, just in terms of like a networking event.
Thank you.
I would like to think that I have the similar skill set. It was one of the things that maybe led to our success, especially as we rose the corporate ladder.
Absolutely.
And the same thing holds true digitally online.
Yeah.
Networking is the same. It's surface area.
It's that connection. When you're willing to both build the connections and not look at it as like, I'm only making this connection because there's something in it for me.
Exactly.
I had so many different conversations. And so when the conversation landed with Hap Peterson, who happened to be the area director at Boston Scientific at the time, and we sat down, him and his manager, who are both Iowa football alums, because all roads lead through Iowa.
Yeah.
And
is this heaven?
No, it's Iowa.
It's Iowa.
And wonderful reference, by the way. And we sat down, and he's telling me all these things about the money you can make in med device, and the things that you can do. And I just looked at him and said, I'll go anywhere.
I love that.
I will do anything. I will go anywhere. You just tell me when you have an opportunity. Mm-hmm. And that was as I was finishing my graduate degree. And a month later, I got an email from him that said, how do you feel about Arizona?
Oh my gosh, that's what brought you out here?
That's what brought me out here. Yeah.
That's so cool.
And I said, I think it's hot, but I'm in.
I love it.
So I flew down to Tucson, interviewed in Tucson, stayed just 12 hours in Tucson.
Yeah.
110 degrees. I thought, what the hell did I get myself into?
Yeah.
And then I got offered the job here in Phoenix. They actually gave me the choice. They said, you can go to Phoenix or Tucson. And I thought, well, Phoenix is bigger.
Yeah.
I knew one person that lived in Phoenix.
It's amazing.
And so I moved here in 2010, sight unseen, packed 2 suitcases.
Yeah.
And really, I think to your story, it's you built those connections. You got really gritty, really hungry, built your knowledge, built, really that sphere of influence that you had.
Right.
And then positioned your story in a way that you could sell.
Yeah.
And they could see that.
They saw the opportunity to this guy's plug and play.
Exactly.
But the other thing that I did that I forgot about, I created a sense of urgency.
Say more about that.
We were free agents. Think about it. You were a free agent, and Boston was a team that was looking for talent. So I was interviewing with Biomet, with Zimmer, before they were Zimmer Biomet.
Yeah,
they were separate.
Yeah.
So I was interviewing with Arthrex, Biomet, all these, most of them distributor run at the time, and I had offers from all those companies, but I wanted to get into spine, not sports medicine or not trauma.
Yeah.
At the time, Brandon, again, my mentor, who knew this market, or knew this industry backwards and forwards. I think he just celebrated 25 years at Synthes Trauma. And told me, get into spine because the trajectory, the innovation, the pricing's, still relatively good. And again, it was such good advice to think about getting that, so I'm a big fan of mentoring. I mentor people in med device, and I try to give them advice at a pivot point in their career. But Brandon told me that, and then so I was able to know, okay, this is my North Star. I really want to break into spine.
Yeah.
And so I used those other opportunities. Again, back to James, the hiring manager. I said, look, man, I want to work in spine, and for Medtronic would be a dream. I got to chase down this dream and I'm going to take this job. And he said, well, you're not going to want to move to Oklahoma. I'm like, my wife is, she's from Kansas. And
I gotta go.
I gotta go. And
gotta
I
do
was
it.
prepared to,
Yeah.
like you said, I'll go anywhere.
Yeah.
And he ended up like, that sometimes creates that sense of urgency where they see a high potential person. They're like, let's get a job offer. Like, what are we doing? Like, and it worked out great for them, for me. Like,
yeah, it's that leverage and that willingness,
Yeah.
right? In your willingness to put it together in a way where they could understand very clearly your value and the urgency around your value, right? And my value was different. My value was flexibility.
Yes.
I'll go anywhere, I'll do anything. And guess what? I know the clinical world. So I actually started as a clinical specialist at Boston Scientific. And when I had my first interview in Tucson, I sat in front of the hiring manager who ended up being my boss and mentor, and he now runs the division for Boston Scientific. And he said, I don't want a clinical that's going to come in here and want to be a sales rep. I want a clinical who's just going to come in, work hard, and do the right thing for the patients. And I looked at him and said, that's all I know how to do.
Yes.
Right.
Sure.
That is my wheelhouse. Now, it was kind of funny when then, year and a half later, I was all of a sudden in a sales role. And, you very quickly learn that was possible because selling a med device is building trust.
Yes.
And we talked about the credibility and that partnership with your provider.
Yeah.
And so
Big time.
That was the value that I brought, right? The agility, that partnership. And I think, as we look of, okay, well, what's the point of this conversation in our time here today? It's really, how do you talked about mentoring. I love to mentor as well. Obviously I have my business, but then I do a whole bunch of mentorship as well. And that's outside of my business, especially for people that are new in the industry, looking to find their way into the industry.
Yep.
That's what we're going to call it. Instead of breaking in, they're finding their way in.
Yeah.
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 But it's that MedTech mentorship, right?
Yes.
And I kind of love it because it's like your MedTech voice. I'm MedTech Collective.
Yeah.
I should start using my business name more rather than just my name. And today we get to talk about like, what is MedTech mentorship?
Yeah.
What are the things that you need to be present in your career, be focused on if you're looking to find your way into the industry? And if you're here, how are you going to actually get yourself to the top of the leaderboard? Because differentiating yourself is so challenging in this noisy environment that reps have now.
Yeah. I mean, it's a different environment today than it was when we were discovering medical device, finding
I love that. Yeah.
It's much different. And I think if you think about social media and LinkedIn, there's a ton of opportunity there to expand your sphere of influence and kind of who you are, what you do. It's no longer who you know, it's who knows you, right?
Oh, absolutely.
And that's true. That was true when I first heard that a couple of years ago.
Yeah.
Still true today. And you what is it? Your network is your net worth, right?
Yeah.
I mean, we've had so many opportunities, whether it's paid speaking gigs or whatever, because of the brand that we've built.
Yeah.
But again, it's not like I'm trying to build a personal brand. That's another byproduct of sharing your story and what you're doing and how and why
and building trust that's based on that credibility, right? Because you've consistently time and time again done the right things for the people around you.
Yeah.
Like you're talking about, the opportunities and doors that are open. I look at this, Sierra Spine Society. Mike Dorsey gave me my first panel opportunity, my first conference faculty opportunity. He asked me to come into Sierra Spine and run an industry panel. And then it created all these other options. He was texting me the other day saying like, everyone wants to do a CAP panel now. It's like, yeah, because industry conversations are important. That partnership, that, interconnected nature. Let's not, to your point earlier, the objectives of reps and their performance and how it's measured and a physician and their performance often are misaligned, but there's a ton of commonality through it. And how do you build that commonality as a company, as a rep, boots on the ground, and support your physicians in a way that your business grows? And then to go back to the brand, your brand grows because of it. It's not the other way around. You don't grow your brand and then your business grows, right? You have to like link those two together. That's the way I see it, at least.
Totally. And I think like there's a lot of parallels to building. I mean, think about it. Well before personal brand was ever even a term that I even uttered or knew, I was building my market brand in Austin and Round Rock, and the doctors and staff and nurses that I worked with, they knew me. They wanted me in the room. I made myself, I did everything I could to make myself indispensable. Like it would be different if I wasn't there. Right.
Yeah.
And so, but that was hyper focused on one market. And I think, as my career progressed and whatever, as that dirt grew from Texas, Oklahoma to the Western United States, that's
Right.
where LinkedIn became a focus because it was different and it was the ability to reach reps that we were recruiting. We were growing. That was strategic leverage.
Amazing recruiting opportunities.
And 100%. And so, again, the goal was never to build a personal brand on LinkedIn. I was recruiting competitive hires for the company at Medtronic. I was back in Medtronic. So I did 7 years in Invasive, built a territory in Austin, then got recruited back into management.
Yeah.
But I bring that up to say, like, all the focus on personal branding, it's like I didn't try to build that brand in my market as a rep. I was just trying to serve and provide value and be indispensable and build that trust. And then your brand becomes a microcosm of all those things.
Yeah.
Same thing on whether it's social media. Like, I think there's a lot of focus there on building out your brand and all that stuff. I think if you were just authentic, and a lot of times when I meet people for the first time, they'll say you're exactly the same online as you are in person. And I think that's a high compliment because
Huge compliment.
I'm not trying to be anyone else.
Yeah, I would agree. Cause when we met last April, it was like, yeah, okay. I mean, it's just like, you just pick up where you started online.
Yes.
Really. Yeah.
And it happens with doctors. Just stop me. We're here at the conference in the lobby. Doctors stop me. They've been following along and, they want to talk about how we can help their story and their brand and their market. This is, it's a conversation I had a long, long time ago with a visionary, CEO. And he said to me, like, you're meeting people downrange of the relationship before you ever meet them. When you share, when you share your story and you share online, because when you meet, there's not that, like, they already like you. They may trust you. They definitely want to engage with you. Every transaction or sale, there's a relationship involved.
Right.
And so we're just starting early online.
So let's translate that to the folks who are here and, probably still listening to us at this point.
Yeah.
But what is your recommendation, how you build trust in person?
Yeah.
Right. And then digitally.
Yeah. I'll start in person because that's where we both started.
Yeah.
Again, we talked about it earlier. It's the little moments. It's doing all the things, like, just because they're the right thing to do. A couple examples that stick out to me. I would go and look at the MRIs and review films when the doctor wasn't at clinic. Because if you go when they're at clinic, you're going to slow everything down, right? They have a lot of patients to get through. So go on the off days. A lot of people think, well, why don't you wait and go when the surgeon's there? So that, I'm like, they're going to hear that you were there.
Yeah.
That's actually more valuable. You get to build relationships with the staff. And I think, like, a lot of that is, you mentioned earlier, you're doing things not for any reason, but just because it's and that's the law of reciprocity. Like, what goes around comes around.
Right thing to do.
The right thing to do by that patient. I want to be best prepared because the surgeon trusts me and expects me to be best prepared. And that's why they call me and not the competition. And a lot of people, they're so focused on, like, how do you even get to that point? It's in those little moments. They see what the hospital's setting up for another surgeon's case. They see all the hard work that you're doing, and you say hi to them at the scrub sink. Let's say it's a competitive surgeon, and you don't sell them, but you just keep making those deposits.
You make yourself visible, and I think that's it, right? I mean, trust is bred within visibility, because if they don't see you, they can't know what you're doing, right? And some of that, to your point, some of that visibility is, are you in front of their face? And others are people talking about you when you're not there. And by people, we mean their staff.
That's right.
Because if you're not selling the total office, I mean, nothing as a manager drove me nuts more than hearing, like, oh yeah, I brought the doctor coffee.
That's the worst. You're going to make enemies.
Do not march yourself anywhere and blow past the front desk, the APPs, the medical assistants. Those people, you talked earlier about building a moat around your business. Those people are, I mean, they are like the front leaders of that moat.
That's right.
And they will, actually, the physician that basically made my rep of the year possible, the reason he worked with me 10 years prior was because his staff liked me.
Yeah,
I
100%.
said, why did you switch from Medtronic? He said, because the girls liked you.
That was the secret of my success as well.
Yeah.
Win the staff. And it's a service job. So you got to get a chance. And they can help you with that chance.
Yeah.
Right. And so showing up and leaning in and really being curious, being interested in them. I think there's a lot of focus on trying to be interesting. Just be interested.
Yeah.
Be interested in who you're.
More questions, right?
Questions.
2 ears, 1 mouth.
100%.
So, I think it's interesting too, because when we think about, the staff, the ways that you build trust around your customer, and you talk about it's a service, there is, I think folks also get stuck, and we're both wearing scrubs today. You get stuck in this mindset at times of like, you show up, you wear your scrubs, you bring coffee, you do so much of the service that you forget to sell.
Yep.
And it's a really fine tipping point. And I think, our next topic, right? Because I want to close the book on trust. Not that you can talk trust in 10 minutes, but, I think that's another important point to discuss of like, how do you delineate sales versus service? And how do you drive success in both?
That's such a fantastic question. I mean, I think that selling has a negative connotation. No one likes to be sold to. Like, imagine you're walking through the mall, if you still go to malls, and like someone's coming at you with a sample. We as humans have a natural, it's called the reptilian response. Your part of your brain like just turns that off because it's obvious. Commission breath is terrible. It stinks, right? Desperation is a stinky cologne. All these things. I always say them. They're true. Like, you cannot make it seem like it's your agenda. You're serving still in that sales moment where you're asking about what are the difficult pathologies, what are some things that we could maybe do, and you're asking and trying to get down to the root of why the decisions are being made, why the surgeon or doctor is choosing one thing over another. So I would really focus on what's their differential diagnosis, what are they doing, why are they doing it, how are they doing it, and then what are ways that you can improve that. Because if you're focused on pathology and on anatomy and on solutions and treatment options, then all the sales takes care of themselves.
Yeah.
Right. That's what happened with me.
Well, I always call it, or call it isn't the right terminology, but I always talk about it as sales in service of the thing they care about, which is successful patient outcomes.
That's it.
And when you sell in service of the thing that matters to them, it's not that push that you run across in the mall. It's, to your point, that collaborative conversation of what matters to you. What is your current experience? If you could change anything about it, what is it? And the question I always really encourage folks to ask, what do you love about what you're currently using?
Yeah.
Like, we get so in the weeds on what's the gap in your current technology. Yes, you do want to know that, but also you as a rep should know their technology and know what the gaps are.
That's right.
From a product standpoint. But you want to know, why does that surgeon or physician choose every day to put in orders or use the product or, whatever it is, the device or implant or consumable that you're selling. And if you find out what matters to them, that gives you so much more power and influence in a conversation. You can sell in service of what they care about.
That's right.
Right? Oh, I use my rep because, to your point, they, are looking at images and they bring me the information and then we go through it together because they're the ones that's there at 2 a.m. because they partner with my staff on education. Like, they give you the answer key. But if you only focus on the gap, it's like the gap versus the game, right? If you only focus on the gap, then you aren't selling in service of, that's when you're just selling.
Yeah, no, that's well said. I mean, it just brings me back to like the early moments when like I wasn't crushing it. I wasn't so successful, but you can see signals and you can see times where, okay, like this surgeon and or this opportunity or this MA, PA, and just leaning into that and just treating every moment like it matters as much as it does, because they all matter.
Yeah.
I think people, like you, to your point, they just focus on the surgeon and everyone else is an afterthought. That's short-sighted thinking.
It won't get you far, right? Just like focusing on the dollar, just focusing on the physician, which is a byproduct of just focusing on the dollar, right? Because you're like, that's the decision maker, which often they aren't, you also probably are missing something. You think the physician is the only key decision maker.
Yeah.
But, when you say of like the signals early, because none of us came out the womb being top sales reps.
Mm-mm.
And if I told you all of the hair raising stories that got me to number one in the country, we would run out of time. And also you'd be like, she actually did it? Because it's amazing. But, the thing that the real reason I even got the opportunity in the first place is actually I worked as a clinical specialist. I worked for a territory manager who was the most Jekyll and Hyde professional I've ever encountered. Brilliant, successful, savvy in the OR. So much of the good things I learned from him, but also brash, ridiculous, blew past the people that mattered and just went to the physician, talked about how much money he made. Well, wouldn't you know it, he got himself kicked out of a practice.
Yep.
Because he went to the physician and said, that patient is my patient.
It's unbelievable.
I'm like, no, we are not providers. We don't get to pick patients. They aren't ours.
It's insane.
And it was another physician who had ordered the procedure. And then this physician took over and said, no, I'm going to use a different vendor. And he marched in and said, absolutely not. That's my patient.
I can't believe it.
And that physician said, well, this is my office and you are now no longer invited back in. And so then I thought, oh, well, there goes our business. They were a massive account, 13 physicians.
Wow.
$2.5 million.
Yeah.
So my manager and I walked back in a week later and I asked him, I said, hey, will you just meet with us, please? Like, let's talk it through. And we're standing in the hallway and he looked at Josh, my manager, and said, the only way we're using Boston Scientific is if Kat's our rep.
Oh, wow. That's
and
great.
So it was like, the door's opened,
Yeah.
but then you're handed the opportunity.
Yep.
And this idea that you have all these moments. And just because I had the opportunity and his backing in that moment, because I built the trust, right? Because there wasn't a question, but I still didn't have all of the pieces that it took to be that top rep, right? It took me 4 years to get there.
You have to learn those on the job.
Absolutely.
There's no shortcut there.
Yeah.
I love that story. And it brings me to like the advice, when I had direct reports, that be a strong second, be available and be there and be ready, because there will be slip ups. There will be changes and mistakes. There will be mistakes. There will be boneheaded foot and mouth, things like that. Like, that's insane to me, the all of that. But I mean, it happens.
Yeah.
People are human. They make mistakes. But I mean, I think that being intentional around service and just having that, awareness, and call it emotional intelligence in the room, like reading the room, being there, understanding how to like the dynamics work and where you can fit in and add value. Like, it's all about being an asset, not a liability.
Oh, absolutely.
That's really the focus. That was led to my success. And, I think that's part of like how to win and how to succeed in med device is.
Yeah.
That.
So let's, take it to like tangibles for folks. It's, the first thing, and the thing I think we've been circling back to in nearly every answer, is trust.
Yes, big time.
You don't build the trust. You don't have, credibility as a function of trust. What else do you see as the keys to success? So if we're unlocking a program to both help people who are discovering MedTech and medical device and people that are new in the industry as well, what is that mentorship advice? What are the 3 to 4 things that they're focusing on?
Well, I'm big on, like, I was the Jerry Maguire of spine reps in Austin. I had 3 surgeons that used me for all their whole practice. So I didn't focus on like, the spray and spreading it out.
Yeah.
I was hyper focused on each individual surgeon.
Okay.
Like, why they do what they do. And so I think like being really attuned to your customer and understanding them. How do they like to receive information? The little things go a long way. So I think just, so you build the trust to get there in the room, but then when you're in the room, you need to be an accelerant. You need to be someone that enables them to take on, more patients or difficult pathologies through the solutions, and just figuring out like how to do that.
Yeah. And that's such a key point that I don't think really gets discussed much, is how do you become an accelerant with your physician? And that it's those things of understanding their treatment algorithm, knowing their practice and the movements and mechanics of their practice, but also the movements and mechanics of the space. I said that at the beginning of your job is to be a subject matter expert on your company, but on the, disease specialty as a whole. Not that you're going to know everything, but you need to know enough to be able to have those moments where you can be an accelerant, where you can identify things. Because, one of the things to Dorsey and Sierra Spine in the conversation that we have last year, our panel conversation was around industry's impact on outcomes.
Oh, wow.
And one of the spine surgeons raised our hands and said, we have, as physicians, a responsibility to listen to our reps.
Because they see
That's
global...
exactly what he said.
Mm-hmm.
He said, because they see more cases. They've done thousands of these compared to what we have. Mm. And then we got into this really wonderful conversation about pattern recognition. And I talk about this all of the time with my clients, and especially when it comes clinically, but even in those social selling and, more like interpersonal environments, recognizing patterns. That's where when you get that gut feel, or like you've been in a case, and I know you have this, you've been in a case and you're like, this is not going, we've got to make a pivot here real quick.
That's right.
And that's because you are both consciously and subconsciously picking up on the patterns that you've already seen play out. And so when you start to recognize, to your point, the little things and the ways that you can see that the scrub tech maybe doesn't, have eyes on the fact that the tray is like extending a little bit over the table, mm-hmm. and you walk over and just whisper behind them and say, hey, got to get that.
Right? I'm glad you said that. It is all about, in that moment, I've been there multiple times, and in that moment, whether it's the scrub or the surgeon or whoever, the rad tech, whoever that you see an opportunity to improve, you need to be the silent voice. Mm-hmm. Walk behind the surgeon. Say, yep. You might be a little lateral, swinging. Or if you can't get there, yep. You're behind the sterile and you can't get close enough to whisper, then it's all about how are you going to present that question, but not throw that surgeon, mm-hmm. who's the captain of the ship, under the bus.
Yeah.
Right. So I was very close to my doctors. First name, all that. I would never call them the first name in the OR.
Oh, absolutely.
They are
not.
Doctor in the OR, even if our families are friends,
yep,
right?
Doesn't matter.
And it's in that moment, it's like, hey, Dr. Smith, what would you think about like swinging in for a lateral or an AP shot mm-hmm. here? Like, just for me, humor me, like, like just some sort of like way in which they can make it their idea, mm-hmm. but because it's what they say in the room goes.
Right.
But it's really important to not try to be the star in that moment.
You are a supporting actress.
Yeah, always. Yeah. Always. And taking that a step, that's a really important distinction, and that just comes with experience and the wisdom of doing the job.
It does, but there's also a way, again, to accelerate your accelerant, right? Not to like be repetitive. You have to start to workshop those questions. Like, how do you build? And I actually just this week was having this almost exact conversation with a client of like speaking up in the OR when you want to confirm a level, or, making sure the implant is where it is, because that is also your job as a rep. You have a responsibility to that patient. As well as to the physician. And how do you build the confidence to ask that question? And then how do you phrase that question? And of course, it gets easier over time and you get better at it, and you build that rapport and that connective tissue with the surgeon, with the staff.
That's right.
But you do have to get intentional, just like you would prepare for an interview. You better be preparing for that case. How am I going to ask? Like, hey, can we confirm this level?
Yeah.
Well, but how are you going to ask that? And to your point of saying, hey, Dr. Jones, do you mind if we take a quick lateral here? I want to be sure we have one just for the patient records.
Yeah.
Or
whatever you have to say.
What are your thoughts? Like, can we confirm real quick? I want to make certain I'm seeing what you're seeing.
Or you could even like fall on the sword. It's like, I wasn't watching. Can we take one more? Like, be the, like, right? Like, own that, and they're going to know. There's nothing more powerful than being in the room and you're the only other person that understands what's happening other than the operative surgeon. Mm-hmm. Sometimes, like, if their PA or first assist is there, they're dialed in for sure. But usually there's that moment where they look up and you just maybe saved them. You don't need credit, you don't need recognition, but that eye lock in that moment, it's like, it's hard to describe. The number one, it feels amazing, but it's just, you have so much value in that moment and in that room. And I think one other thing I wanted to touch on of like how to, help win and, how to succeed. Sometimes physicians don't have the best business or how to grow their practice. Like that's not something that's taught in medical school.
Yeah, not at all.
And so you can be, right, you can help them in ways and I started to do this, as it relates to like the referring surgeons and
Mm-hmm.
physicians and kind of some of the, practice marketing now, but back then, but now, I mean, there is so much with social media,
Oh,
the
absolutely.
ability for these doctors to really truly like demystify what it is that they do.
Yeah.
And
Well,
again,
you do a lot of that now, right? And I think so many companies now too have opportunities for co-marketing.
yes,
And that's another thing, just as a quick aside, and then I want you to share about what you do. But this idea that you need to understand the resources that are at your disposal,
Mhm.
or that you could stretch and leverage all of your influence for
yes,
to be at your disposal inside of your company. Co-marketing being one of those, but different opportunities for education and speaking, all of those
that's
things.
right.
But yeah, co-marketing, so many companies now are getting more collaborative with their providers to educate patients, because at the end of the day, you swing it back to, it's all about helping patients understand what their treatment options are.
That's
So
exactly right.
how are you, you did it then,
hmm
and I did a lot of it too, and I have some thoughts on it, but how are you supporting that marketing and business development now?
Well, if you think about MedTech Voice, like what we're here to do is help both doctors and device companies build trust and attention and quite honestly grow,
Yeah.
because it's all about growth. Like I'm a sales guy
Mhm.
and I'm now a marketer, a strategist, a consultant. Like this is so
Yeah.
important that it leads to something. So for a physician in a market, it's helpful for them to build trust and learn how to do that.
Mhm.
I feel video is a very, very powerful way to do that
Oh, absolutely.
quickly. If you look at some of the statistics, like even just on a website, on a physician's website, there needs to be video. There's a
Mhm.
high likelihood, like 80% or more, that they're going to stay if there's some type of video that they can watch.
Yep.
And why is that? Well, these patients or their caregivers are searching for the solution to the problem.
Yeah.
And they need to make that connection. And so I think it's an opportunity for these physicians to really share who they are, why they do what they do, how they do it. And we have a way to do that with them. And to your point on co-marketing, like there are some laws, rightfully so, that industry can't
Absolutely.
necessarily always be directly involved.
Mhm.
And so what we do is we partner with both sides and we provide that intermediary, that bridge between,
Yeah.
because it's about patient education. It's
Mhm.
about building that trust in the marketplace, but also for med tech companies, they need to use these moments to grow market share in a
Yeah.
tasteful way.
Yeah.
And we do both.
In a tasteful and supportive way, right? And I think, like we said, med device has evolved so much since you and I both started in the industry. And I did so much, we called it back then HCE, healthcare education.
Yes.
And, much of my medical sales experience came from, I saw it, I was like, this is the best opportunity. I am selling every time I walk into a referring office.
Yes.
And if I can get myself in with the gatekeeper, past the gatekeeper to these referring physicians,
Mhm.
then I'm building my skills. But I looked at it in addition to that, like this is an opportunity to connect with patients that wouldn't otherwise have an understanding
That's right.
or had these treatment options, right? And at the end of the day, like co-marketing is the same thing, that it's creating an awareness for patients, because, I know you haven't had, opportunity to interact with your end user, but in my past life, that's all we did.
Yep.
And 9 times out of 10, patients after they got their spinal cord stimulator implant would say, why didn't someone tell me about this sooner?
Mm.
And I know that's not unique to spinal cord stimulation. Like there's patients in every disease state who are desperate for a solution because it has side railed or shifted their life and their quality of life in a way that we will never, hopefully,
Right.
understand. And we can't in that moment because we're not in their shoes. But creating access and understanding, right? And having yourself in your company to be able to do that. And it's a lot of what, I work with my clients and the companies, because I coach, of course. It's a lot of what I talk about on LinkedIn. But I also have a very robust consulting and corporate speaking and training arm of my
Yes.
business. And when I do that, right, when we're training and we're talking about how do you build influence with your customers, how do you take ownership of the market? And that's what ownership of the market is, this, healthcare education and patient advocacy and therapy advocacy.
Yes.
So as you're working with a new emerging technology or an existing technology with new opportunities, or just something that still, even spine surgery, there's so much misinformation, disinformation about what it is and how it fits into physicians' treatment algorithms, that when you take ownership of that. And so, it's one of my favorite things to do is go and work with corporate teams like that and work with their sales force and talk through, here's how you do it in a way that, yes, supports the corporate initiative, yes, supports the bottom line, but supports your providers, their patients, and their practice. Because when you focus on those 3 Ps, it works out.
Yes.
I mean, like we said this at the beginning, neither of us expected to make the money or have the opportunity or the success that we did. I was super happy at $50,000.
Yeah, I know.
I did 10x that, and I thought,
Yeah.
Wow.
It's
I don't
great.
know. Right.
It's amazing.
But it was never about that.
No.
It was always about working with the providers, partnering with them, supporting their patients. And I think that what you do at MedTech Voice is you bring that story to life, which is so important.
Thank you. Well, it's been, and we're still evolving. It's been a really amazing journey. We've worked with over 50 companies. It's some incredible, great logos. Also now several surgeons, and we're starting to lean in there too. Yeah. We've done some patient journey stories, which are really impactful. So to your point, I'm like, I didn't have a ton of interaction as a rep. I did on a few cases. Like I remember this vividly. Former fireman, we did a corpectomy. His daughters were nurses at the hospital. So we did something like a little bit, but it was on our iPhone. And it was but it was amazing. I still remember that. So the patient journey stories have been really cool over the last year or two to film a bunch of those. Yeah. Because it really, if you think about the audience of whatever the content that you're putting out there, the assets, I don't like the word content. The assets are there and for a patient audience to learn about like, maybe there's hope. The therapy? There's life after this, right? There's also the industry that is looking for like what should we invest in next? Like who are the people?
Private equity is looking at that. You don't think they're on LinkedIn every year? They're absolutely.
I know I just had a conversation with one yesterday.
Exactly.
No, 100%. Like there's so much there. And so I mean it's been a really interesting frontier. Like again. I don't know of another person other than myself that has made the top of the mountain in med device and then left that, like that really great place that a lot of people aspire to get to, because I think there's a bigger impact here. You're having it, I'm having it, starting to have it. Yeah. And it's been fun to watch.
It's so cool. And I get folks from, I work with companies, Fortune 500 all the way to the small startups. Yep. And then I work with individuals at companies in the range. And there's this assumption that even the big name companies give you everything that you need to succeed. And this is not a knock on the company. This is just the environment that we live in the conditions. It's the water that we swim in. Yep. And so are you going to just jump in if you don't know the depth? No, you're probably going to ask like a lifeguard, to take a look at you and help you out if you need to. Yeah. And that's really, when I've worked client after client, seeing their growth, seeing their confidence, seeing their shift in how they engage with their customers. Because at the end of the day, to your point about impact, I know that I'm impacting them, their financial freedom, their family, like the ripple effect that they have. But then every patient that they impact, every provider that works with them, that then those patients, those therapies, and you're doing the same thing. And is it hard to leave the golden handcuff? Sure.
Big time.
But and we've said this many times in this conversation, it's like when you don't make decisions based on money, your energy and your success is so different.
That's right.
And that's also the same for sales reps. When you make decisions for your customers' best interest, because you've learned them and you understand them and you know how to partner with them,
you're invaluable. Yeah. You will be the person they want in the room, in the market, in their practice, attached. Yeah. It's an extension of their team. That's the goal. And that's, I mean, like it's incredible to think about like today, medical device in 2026 and beyond, like how different it is, but also it's kind of the same.
So speaking of different, what is your take on AI in medical device?
Oh yeah, we could go there.
Mine as well.
So I think that similar to enabling technology in surgery, the best surgeons are the ones that can do freehand technique and then they implement the navigation, the robotics, what have you, because they have the best of both, right? As a writer, both my parents were writers. Like I take pride in every single word that I type. Does that mean I don't use AI to sort and help with a slide deck or write? No, like there are places for it, but you can't just blindly use it in our day to day, because I think that's a little bit careless. Right?
I think
they don't have that wisdom.
Yeah, especially wisdom. Holy cow, right? I mean, because at the rep level, you're using an LLM that is mass market. And certainly as you get into, individual companies, their LLMs and their proprietary algorithms and automations are going to be very different.
Right.
But when you're using mass market, I mean, the amount of times it hallucinates too. And that's what I always caution people, and I think the question, in my line of business and probably in some in yours too, is like, why not just have AI do it? Why don't I just go ask AI how I should grow my business or what I'm doing wrong? It's like, well, you could, but I don't know if AI has ever won,
Never.
6 president's clubs and
Never.
if they've coached dozens and dozens of reps to those president's clubs, right? Because that's not even, it's not about me in this. It's about the people I've supported in their success.
That's right.
And, the wisdom that comes from that. And to take it back to something I mentioned earlier, the pattern recognition.
Yes.
And that's what AI is it's all, like statistically relevant data. What's the highest probability of this being the correct answer?
Mm-hmm.
But you have to make sure the system has the right inputs. And
That's right.
you only get one shot at most sales conversations. So don't you want to make sure you're taking the right shot?
Yeah.
And I think that's where, same as the assets that you help create, you could put those in an AI. You could throw it into script, take a video on your iPhone, but is it telling this story in a way that lands? Yeah. And it just isn't.
What I do in my business is I humanize something that's difficult to describe, and we humanize the doctor-patient experience, the medical device, the MedTech doctor relationship. We go in there and we find ways to really lean in and tell that story and leverage that story.
Yeah.
AI can't do that. Because again, there's a knowledge that I have in this space that you can't replicate that. Even if you dumped all the, like some sort of like a brain dump from everything that I've learned and put it into some sort of a database, like there's still that nuance. There's still a human element to medical device. And at the end of the day, like, I mean, if I'm a rep out there, like, lean into the technology.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah.
To maybe improve or make yourself more efficient. There's tons of tools out there for that.
Yeah.
But I just wouldn't blindly trust it.
Yeah. Just like, you shouldn't blindly trust anything in life, right? That's part of what, your surgeons should teach you. They don't ever blindly trust. They question.
They do.
Right. And that's what a great med device rep does. They you question your own decisions. You learn and get curious about your customers. You get curious about the team and people around you. If you want to grow your career, you need to know everything about the people around you and above you. And the companies outside, right? Don't just grow your network insular.
Yeah, for sure.
Grow your network everywhere.
I mean, Elon Musk, recently came out and said, I think he was with Diamantis' podcast, he was saying how robotics are going to replace surgeons in 3 years. And he's an intelligent person, has done a lot of great things. He could not be more wrong.
Yeah.
And my friend Stefanos Sinacropi he's done a couple of posts on this recently. I need to call him about it, because it's absolute trash to think that like all the knowledge that doctors get in medical school, residency, fellowship, and then taking that into like the operating room and all the calls they have to make in the moment based on a combination of so many things. So much of that is learned on the job through their fellowship or what have you, through their own patient experiences. And I mean, I get from a precision standpoint where robotics are today in surgery,
absolutely.
Right? But in a planning, for sure, the data, great stuff. You're not going to, and I don't think in our lifetime, certainly not in 3 years.
Definitely not in 3 years.
Is there going to be a robot doing an entire surgery? And like, he even went so far as to say that going to medical school is a waste of time. It's just, I don't think so. Call me skeptic.
It'll be interesting, because sometimes I look at, my use of AI, and I'm same as you, is like I use it as a, finishing tool at times. Yeah. Oftentimes, especially for, creating content and educational materials, I don't touch it at all, because that it needs to come from my experience, my expertise, right? That's the value that I bring, not my AI tool. But I look at it, and so sometimes, because I stay in it because I don't want to be left behind, but I wonder, like, am I holding on to my encyclopedias in the age of the internet, right? Like that analogy. But I agree with you. I don't think that, I mean, certainly not in 3 years, but I don't think we'll ever get to a point where, a physician is completely replaced.
Never.
And you think about it, look at medical device. We've talked for decades
the
about going
models.
repless.
Yeah.
Who has ever done it? Every physician has said, or facility, right? Yeah. Large IDNs are like, we want to go repless. We don't need the support. How many have?
Yeah. And who's going to be at the hospital at 2 a.m. with a pregnant wife at home cleaning bone off of a tap. I'm sorry. There's too much at stake. There's too many of those moments that we own, that we just have to, that's our job. And it's part of like the armor that you put on when you go into the room. It's like, okay, like I've got all this. I know that I personally checked and put eyes on every single set.
Yeah.
And I know that it's ready to go.
Yeah.
And it's like, you can have associates, which we did, and they would send pictures and you train them up, because that's how we scaled from 0 to almost 8 million, right? In my time, you had to have more people in the room, but like, it's just the repless model. Like maybe for some cases, not spine, not orthopedics, trauma, there's absolutely no way.
Yeah, you can't do it for neuromodulation. They've tried for years, and there have been a lot of plays because there's a ton of pricing compression too. And as we move into this age of AI and digitization and all this optimization, I think it's so important too that we remember we can't optimize, and you talked about it, the human of it, right? We can't, not going so far to the automation that we forget there's a provider that's relying on you as a sales rep. And there's a patient who's on the table, who's the loved one of someone.
Now, do I think, though, Kat, I will say the model will shift. Oh, yeah. And probably drastically. I think there's going to be, maybe a super rep who's in charge of a bunch of rooms. Maybe there's even like a control center, like a Jarvis, where you see all these screens and ORs with, lower end or entry level folks physically in the room. Potentially, I could see a change there, just because maybe the market dynamics will force that.
Yeah, and so many of the therapies now that are coming to market don't require. You look in the interventional spine space, it's the mild, the BVNA, like those things that don't actually require that. And so I think there will be a mix of it, but it'll be interesting to see where are we in 10 years from now. So we'll have to bookmark this conversation and come back in 10 years and see, were we right? Were we wrong? But what I know is that 10 years from now, trust is still going to be the foundation.
Yeah. And I think relationships,
integrity, right? Your credibility, those relationships that you build on that foundation of trust, and the service, really the sales that you provide in service of those relationships.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, this is a service job. It's called medical device sales. I feel like it's service. You have to learn, though, how to sell in that moment of service. That.
Yeah.
And that's the key. Just be valuable. And I think if somebody's watching this, if somebody's still here, if we're going to release the long form and somebody's still
should we go long?
Yeah, it's very long.
What time is it even? Okay.
Yeah. Okay. We're rocking and rolling.
Yeah.
Like maybe some takeaways. Like, what should we share with them, or what do you want to take this next 20 minutes?
Well, I think takeaways, right? And then we promised people that are looking to what do we call it? Discovering medical device.
Discovering medical device.
Should we make it Discovering MedTech, since we're both
Discovering MedTech?
Yeah. So I think we got to make good on those two, right? The takeaway from an actual sales rep standpoint, if you're in it now, the thing that you have to do is figure out what are your talents. How do you lean into them to make yourself a deadly weapon? Because yes, the gaps I talked about earlier, gap versus gain. You do want to identify your gaps, and you want to understand,
gotta know,
where do you need to bolster and protect, right? Build a moat around it, because maybe it's not the best area of knowledge or expertise for you. But what are the things that you are so damn good at that no one else can beat you, and get even better at those things?
I that's exactly what I did. I leaned into my strengths, tried to delegate my weaknesses, not avoid them, but just find people that could round that out.
Yep.
I do that today in my business as well. And I think it's just knowing like what I am uniquely gifted and great at, and what brings me joy. It's that ikigai, right? Like the intersection.
Totally.
For those that don't know ikigai, or Harvard's hedgehog, it's 4 circles of what you love to do, what you're great at doing, what you can make money doing, and what the world needs. And if you find the intersection of all those 4, that's your reason for being. The Japanese call it ikigai. And really, if you find that, it's not work. It's you're fully aligned. And we talked about your energy you're giving off.
Absolutely.
It's who you are.
Changes.
It's part of your core identity, which is also challenging when that shifts, because I feel certainly men, I can't speak for the women in med device, but we have a lot of our identity, which is rooted in what we do and our career. And when that landscape shifts,
same for the women, let me tell you.
Sure. Yeah. I mean, it's across the board. When that landscape shifts, and I talk to so many men about this, like middle career and folks that are just trying to figure it out, what's next. Yeah. Like, it's challenging and it's not easy. And I've gone through it and it'll rock you. But that's okay. That's part of your story. It's just a chapter in your story. Yeah. Getting past that's important.
Well, and I think that is also so relatable and translatable, even when your early career, is recognizing that your sticky moments, the tough moments that you feel like will break you, are the moments that will actually transform your career and your success. Because the story I shared earlier about the physician who was like either cat or no business is the same physician that I learned and had, tough conversations or moments of, clinical, like where I didn't show up as my best, right? I was a clinical specialist under him. But what did I do? I would go to him and say, hey, in that case, I think I should have done this or approached this a little bit differently to support you. What was your take? And we learned together and we built this synergy that it was like a pitch and catch scenario. And when you unlock the understanding that those moments, if you let them break you, they will. But if you let them build your career, they will be exponential.
Yeah, no, I completely agree with what you just said. Think about it. Many doctors, surgeons, they're constantly, they've grown up under either residency or fellowship. They're getting taught things. And then once they become in practice, if they're not part of an institution with residents and fellows, who are they sharing their information with? If you can be that person, which I was, it sounds like you were as well, like you will become, it's the fast track to becoming the best rep you can, because there is so much knowledge you can learn from that doctor leaning into you and sharing with in the context of like supporting each case. And again, it doesn't happen overnight, but I became a really good rep, quite honestly, because these doctors were leaning into me and sharing so much knowledge around the anatomy, the pathology, to the point where they could stay scrubbed in, and I own the PAX machine on the MRI. Like, I mean, I find exactly what they need. Yeah. And I wasn't even that great clinically. I just knew enough to be dangerous in that moment. Yeah. Really, like, it's finding how you can be the most valuable to them as it relates to their patient. And then, like, there's a trade-off there too. They're going to share and lean into you. They want to prepare you to be great because you're taking care of them and their patients and the staff and the room and absolutely part of the team.
Yeah. They need you to be great. And that's actually the topic of this year's panel at Sierra Spine. Okay. Yeah. Is we're having conversations about what is the physician role and responsibility in the education, support, and evolution of industry.
Oh, I love that.
Yeah. Of the reps, that's particularly. Yeah. Because, I think to boil it down, it's the trust, it's being a subject matter expert, and it's bringing that value. Yes. Each and every time. And you do those three things. And those three things take a ton of work, right? It's not like you can just flip the switch and you got them.
That's right.
They're built time and time again in each tiny action. You do that, and that's what sets the stage for that P Club, that top rep, that wherever it is that you want to take your career.
Yeah. And it's like, I mean, we've captured some national sales meetings. I've been a speaker at some as well, and I know you have and being in those moments, it's like the best thing that those reps can do is any physician that's there, especially if they're in a different territory, that is such a rich opportunity to learn from role play. Any industry conference, if you feel if you have that opportunity, maybe you've connected on LinkedIn. Maybe, right? We just had this conversation with a surgeon that switched from one robotic platform to another. And I captured that for sure. Yeah, that's a big one. It's a big one. It's so rich because that's what the reps need to know. They need to know, like, why did this one surgeon choose something?
Yeah, what influences those decisions?
What was the spark? And that's your opportunity to learn it. Yeah. And I think there's so much there, like with these people that are listening, these men and women that are in med device or that are trying to get in. Like it is oftentimes, there's not one like playbook or magic or a secret, and it's not something that's going to be an overnight success, right? Like I was also I had 3-peat at Chairman's Club, President's Club, which was
well done,
right? It was hard, because every year,
Yeah.
the quota,
It keeps going.
that doesn't happen until all the buildup to get to that point.
Yeah.
And learning from the doctors that we mentioned, learning from the reps that are doing things in other markets that, hey, what are you doing? How are you constantly on the top of the list and on stage? And, I just want to encourage people, it's still a great industry to be in. And again, we both broke out, but we're still very much in.
Oh, I'm not leaving.
Not leaving. We're still in the mix.
Yeah.
Because it's so incredibly rewarding.
Yeah.
And there's so many people, again, that you're leaning into that are impacting those rooms and those lives.
Yeah.
Same with us. And I just, I think it's a gift. It's truly a gift that they should be grateful for.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm grateful every day for it. Let's leave our medical device explorers. That's what we're going to call them.
Okay.
The explorers.
All right.
We're just going to give them a whole bunch of names.
Yeah.
Let's leave them with a few things, because both you and I broke in without, we built our own support system, right? Yeah. We didn't have a program. We didn't go to a college to help us. So what are the tips that you have? 3 to 5 things. Like if you were building, if you were their coach or you were their mentor, what are you telling those individuals who are looking to find an opportunity in medical device?
Yeah.
How do they do it?
I think first you need that mentor. You need someone. And the reason for that, just like someone that has done what you want to do, has succeeded in something that you're trying to get into, they're going to help you do that faster. They're going to find a little bit of things that they can help you understand what to do next.
So then should people pay for programs? I mean, what's your take on that?
TBD. I've got some stuff in the works.
Jay's I got a program for you.
It's not necessarily look, I think some stewardship and fellowship and mentorship are good things. We talked about it in medicine and surgery. In this scenario as well. It's just how it's currently being deployed. I don't think it's worth the money that they're charging. Quite honestly, I don't. Matter of fact, the only robbery, it's not a break-in, but the only robbery I see are the thousands of dollars that people are spending to people that never did it. Full stop. But, so I think mentorship is very important. Getting someone that can listen to your unique story and understand what you need to do next. Okay? And then, but realize, it's difficult to get in for a very specific reason. I'll give you 2.
Okay. 1,
there's a patient on the table. That's not, you're not selling bubble gum. There's a patient on the table.
Yeah.
And I guess secondary to that, or 2, these companies, even distributors for the companies, they're mitigating risk on a daily basis. And you are risk.
Yeah.
And someone new is risk. It changes risk to a surgeon. That's why they're creatures of habit. They don't just try stuff new.
Right.
It's not been fully vetted. Same thing with the people that are in that room. We don't know how you're going to be. And there's no way to simulate it. I'm sorry. There's not. You can't. And so it's just understanding, you have to have a bit of creativity, some tenacity, really just the discipline to do that job, because it's a very difficult job and it takes many, many years before success potentially finds you. Doesn't always find people.
Yeah.
It's a difficult job for a reason, right? It's difficult because the stakes are extremely high. I'm extremely grateful that it found me when it did. Changed my life, and I'm grateful for it. And I try to give back as much as I can. But that's what I would say. Find someone that can help you. Just understand what your path is. There are some things out there which I think there's some things that are better than others.
Yeah.
But I would just be cautious. So just you don't need to spend a ton of money. Right? I don't see that as the next step.
Yeah.
In many cases, as a hiring manager, I would look at certain things as potential flags, honestly.
That's a good point. I mean, I know for me as a hiring manager, as you were talking, I was, kind of having some, flashbacks of all of the thousands of interviews I did. And if I can offer one distinct piece of advice for $0, please be on time. Please be early, because if you're early, you're on time. If you're on time, you're late.
That's right.
And I'll just share a quick anecdote. I had a candidate who 15 minutes late to the interview. So I was already out of the Zoom room,
Yeah,
right? It
you're
was
done.
virtual.
Yep.
The recruiter calls me and is like, oh, every excuse in the book. I'm like, listen, I'm not having it. Pass. That's because how you do one thing is how you do anything.
Everything. What are you going to tell the surgeon?
Exactly.
Are you 15 minutes late to their case?
That's what I'm looking at as a hiring manager. I'm looking at, because you said, you can't replicate it, and you can't, but you can look for signals.
That's right.
And so if you're going to do this with me, when you're supposed to be on your best of your best, what's going to happen when the shit hits the fan in the OR?
Yeah.
I don't have a whole lot of confidence. You, to me, represent risk, to your earlier.
100%. It's also like your cadence and your whole like attitude and like how you're following up from the interview process also is a mirror to how you
all
would
of
be
it
in the job.
Sell
And I've
that
seen
manager as a customer,
right?
Absolutely.
But and what happens if you send a message and they don't respond? Well, what are you going to do? Like I would coach our associates. Like I had and I've told this before, I had like so many texts that I would send the surgeon that went unanswered. This is a surgeon that did business with me.
Yeah,
millions of dollars. They're busy. You're not at the top of their total of their priorities, but you have to keep sending that text because you want to stay top of mind. You want to stay relevant.
Yeah.
Lean into LinkedIn. There's so much you can do there strategically. We don't need to get into it, but there's ways to tell your story there as it relates to trying to get into this space.
Yeah.
I mean, but honestly, like you have to be on time for that interview. You have to follow up. You need to be like, learn like what you're great at doing.
Yeah.
Like you can't just expect to, even if you're paying someone, like for them to just give you like, oh, here's what you got to do. It's this and that. Nothing is the same. Every market's different. Every surgeon's different. Every medical device company is different.
Absolutely.
Culture.
It reminds me of the adage, I'm sure you've heard this one, that when people are trying to contract and work with the VA, right? When they say, if you've seen one VA, you've seen one VA.
Yeah.
And that's how it is.
Yeah.
Right? And that's how it is in medical devices, like patterns. You'll have patterns, and that's where you build the patterns. And so I'm with you of like, you have to build a community of support. And whether you do that in paid support, whether you do that in, organic connections that you build, and same as you're talking about, the surgeon's not responding. It's like, if you are a new, entree into medical device and you're looking to find that opportunity, you're going to send a lot of unanswered messages.
Yeah. Totally.
You need to learn now not to take it personally. And when you build that network and then build your understanding, it really, I like to coin it as like, be a student of the game.
Yeah.
Learn every day something that's going to make you better. And that the first thing that you have to learn is how to translate your current experience, your background, into terms that are meaningful and resonate with that hiring manager. Because if you can't speak their language, then you're done before you even sit down in the interview. You need to be able to sell them just like you're selling a customer and speaking their language.
Yes.
And it's that, I hope, because I've never been in one of these programs, right? I hope that they are teaching that skill, and that it's past just here's the resume form and here's the standard follow-up email, that there's a conversation around how you translate your background and experience, how you demonstrate your resilience and agility, and how you create predictive success in the future, right? Because we can't predicate your ability to be in medical device based on your past experience, but I'm going to look at my interactions with you and decide, is this enough data for me to think that there's a predictive measure that you could be successful here? And remember that every single moment is a test. And it's so critical when you build that network to have people that you can go to and say, I've not encountered this situation before. What should I do here? What would you do if you were in my shoes?
It's important. And, I didn't think I was going to really talk about this, but one of the things that I've been working on a little bit in stealth with a couple of good friends, is the MedTech Select program. And what we're doing is, like, we've got a questionnaire. It's very simple. Fill it out. Like, let us know about you. And, there's a 15-minute consultation, free call.
Yeah.
And after that point, if you're selected for that mentorship, because we're extremely busy, then like there will be an opportunity to reach out and engage with the program. Yeah. But it's truly a one-on-one mentorship. It's not because this entire industry is bespoke, and
Yeah.
the people's experience that they have, what they did in college, what they want to do, what their experience is, like it's all so different, and it's just part of that equation.
Yeah.
It's hopefully going to lead to, them getting a gig. But yeah, I mean, like we're excited about it. Ton more to come there, but
I love it.
that is something that I do have as a way to look. 15 minutes. When you get your 15 minutes, come prepared. Do the research. Know what you want.
Mm-hmm.
Like it's not just like I want to get into medical sales. Okay, great. Why?
Yep.
Why you? Why
Yep.
medical sales?
Yep.
What is
Absolutely.
it? And it's like have a clue around maybe what section of medical device, because orthopedics is different than gynecology or dermatology or urology.
I mean, the opportunities are endless, and getting clear and knowing, that's where it comes into that student of the game of like, what do your talents, your existing talents, what do they align to?
Yes.
And if you are wanting to go after a specialty that you don't have aligned talents to, then how are you going to build those talents? While you're building to the role, right? It's just like the adage of like, when you're a CS, you want to be a TM, do the job before you have the job.
That's right.
Right. You need to be thinking like you're a medical device sales rep. And, it's part of, I love to hear that you're building that. I work with people very bespoke, and I intentionally don't have a program because I don't want to take someone's money if I'm not confident.
That's right.
That you belong here and that I can help you get in, right?
That's
because this job is a life and a lifestyle, and it's not for everyone.
That's the thing. It's not, and that's okay.
Mm-hmm.
Like it's okay.
Yeah.
I mean, like I think that's honestly a good thing, not to be some elitist or like this is some club you can't break into. No.
Yeah.
But just it's very difficult.
Mm-hmm.
And I had great mentors. That's what led me to break in. And then when I got in, I had great mentors when I got in, right? And, if that doesn't exist, there's people that can help you do that yourself, right? Me in a different capacity. And really just like stay positive.
Yeah.
Like energy is contagious. It's obvious, even on a Zoom call, like who you are and just be joyful. Be great.
See it as an opportunity, not an obstacle.
Yeah.
And, interestingly enough, one of the gals I worked with was a senior in college. And for her graduation present, she asked her parents to pay for her to work with me.
That's amazing.
And so she viewed it. But what was so powerful about the work that we did together and how she showed up is she viewed every moment. It truly was a gift, right? That was like the gift her parents gave her. And she showed up prepared and locked and loaded. We didn't even finish our engagement and she had a job.
It's awesome.
And it's that shift in how you think, because how you think influences how you move, and how you move influences the opportunities that you have. And you can do that in a lot of different ways, but you've got to get out there. You've got to build a network. You have to have those conversations and stretch into your edges.
Think of it like a gym membership. People pay for gym memberships.
Yeah.
How many people are like going every day and right? And like,
what are those stats? It's like,
I don't know.
After January 12th, like 70% of people disappear from gyms. Someone's going to have to fact check that. But like,
it's right. Because you can't just but the fact that your client was prepared and she was like doing all the things so that your meetings were impactful. No wonder she got a job. Like, I don't think that there's some like mysterious thing of like how to get there. It's not some puzzle or like map or you have to like, it's not a riddle. It's not a robbery. There's not some like smash grab job. That's not it. Like, that's what bothers me, I think, about the term break-in. Because it's like, you're not fooling anyone. Like, because if breaking in's the gig, if that's what you ultimately are like, that's what you want to do, like, okay. But if you want career longevity and multiple President's Clubs and hundreds of thousands of dollars every year, like that's not the goal again, but that's possible, right?
Right. Well, and it's taking it past that idea of like, I've got to break in, and breaking in is the prize. It's like,
not the prize.
Yeah, it's like, that's just table stakes to me. And you get the opportunity to
serve,
to sink or swim here, and how, building the skills and the strategies for how you're going to swim. And how you're going to be the Michael Phelps of med device.
Yeah.
Day by day by day by day. And that's, takes us back to where we started of like, the marbles in the jar for trust, and how medical device careers are won in the big moments, in the flashy moments on stage. But that's when the award gets handed to you. That's not when they're really won.
No,
they're won in the accumulation of moment after moment after moment of sales in service of what you know to be the value that matters to your customers and their patients.
That's right. You're giving, and then maybe maybe you take or you ask for the business, or like there's so many things like that. But yeah, it's constantly just those little nuggets of trust that you're building, and before you're depositing those before you ever withdraw.
Yeah. If you try to withdraw too early, let me tell you,
it's not good.
It's not good. Well, Jay, I feel like that was a marathon.
I don't even know it.
Marathon. I don't know where we're at from a time perspective. I mean, we're right on the dot.
Right on dot.
Thank you for taking time when you're here in town. I mean, what a fun opportunity. I think, 3 decades of mindshare between the two of us.
That's
from
right.
a success standpoint. And I think, it's also the concept too of iron sharpens iron.
Yes.
Right. And so like, if you take nothing away from this conversation, take away the fact that you need to build relationships and learn from the people in your network. And I think that's one of the things I'm most grateful for of LinkedIn is, I've had the opportunity to get to know you, become friends with you, and, learn from you and with you, and get to share that knowledge to help other people.
No, I mean, and I would say same thing right back at you. Like I absolutely adore you from like from a place of like, I love what you're putting out into the world. I think it's incredible. You're a light. You're leaning in, not just women, but women and men in med device. Yep. But I think that like the gal that I connected you with yesterday, like, there's so many things that like I think you're so well served to help the women in med tech, and of course that's your path. But really, really appreciate what you're doing. I know there's tons of synergy for us to do things together, which are exciting.
Yeah, and this definitely won't be the last.
No, for sure.
It's also not the first, which is the fun part.
It's not the first, but we're in your town now.
Yeah,
so.
Yeah. Next time we'll be in Austin.
Yeah, for sure. And hopefully people get something out of this. Like I think that's why we wanted to do this.
Yeah.
It's like there's so much noise, there's so much information out there, but who are the people that are dispelling information? What have they done in their careers? And what's their end goal? Like, we're just trying to share. We're just trying to share the knowledge that we built.
Because when I look at it, and you said you're grateful every day, and just grateful that Med Device found you. And I look at it too of, I would have been really happy in that $50K a year job thinking I was a millionaire, and the opportunities I've had and the individuals, right, leading a team and helping them grow and be successful. And I remember when, I made the decision to move into leadership, that was what motivated me, was helping other people grow. And it's stayed true, right? And I do that in a paid format now as a coach, but that doesn't mean I don't want to help everyone.
Yeah, I'm in the same boat.
It's a fun format to get to do this together.
Servant's heart. And I think your game recognizes game.
Absolutely.
So,
all right. I love it.
Until next time.
Yeah, right on time.